Hey everybody, and welcome to the A.C.E Football Academy. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, we are brought to you by the A&C Car Wash, locally owned and operated here in Richmond, Kentucky. Please go make sure you see them for all your car washing needs. Coach Dunham, we've been having a lot of fun talking about our current, or I guess it's not current anymore, but past Kentucky High School state tournament, the girls and boys. We ran a little logo competition that we had a lot of fun with. We enjoyed watching a lot of those matches. The Final Four was fun. The state championship was even more incredible. And we are lucky enough tonight to be joined by Coach Deopere from Bethlehem High School. He is the head coach at the Bethlehem Banshees, and he is the current head coach of the state champions on the girls' side. Coach, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very much, guys, and appreciate that, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I think us being former high school coaches, we understand the atmosphere of school soccer as well as the excitement and the frustrations at the same time, and the stress of getting into the state tournament, knowing you have a quality team and going up against other quality teams in your area. So curious to get your perspective of things that you've had to deal with or approaches that have been successful on your end. So, Coach, why don't you give us a quick update, how you got to Bethlehem, kind of your backstory, and how you got in that position there?
Yeah, good, guys. Kind of a long route, honestly. Grew up in Illinois, a college playing career in Wisconsin. From there, played professionally for Cincinnati Riverhawks of the A-League back then, the USA. And then playing for the Columbus Crew for a start, Minnesota Thunder. Was done my playing career and went to grad school. And back in Louisville, I knew some guys from Kentucky connections from my playing days. And after graduated grad school, stayed in Louisville. Kind of a strange path to Bardstown, Kentucky, just south of Louisville, of course. And from there, was in the club scene, coached my kids, and I always said, I didn't really have much of an interest in getting involved in high school or anything else, and ended up training some of my current players from this past year, and kind of got a bug and some of the talent associated with that, and then eventually just the pageantry of high school soccer, and kind of I remember what that was all about. And eventually, an opportunity arose, and I took it, and year two, here we are.
Before we dive into your season with Bethlehem this past year, you just said something, you just triggered a thought in my brain. We're actually getting ready to release a podcast discussing that. The words you said were the pageantry of high school soccer. And Coach, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but we are all club coaches. We all coach on the club side of things. But I think it is fair and safe to say that there is just something different about coaching for a school.
There is absolutely no question, guys, and I have no problem answering this question, too. I'm a club coach myself. I coach my son for Nelson Elite, our club here. So I can tell you, a lot of ways, guys, I feel like high school soccer is almost on trial to a certain degree, and I think it's a shame. I think the club aspect of this has gotten a little bit nuts, but I appreciate, of what they're trying to do, and it's not uniform, right? I mean, there's a lot of club coaches and a lot of clubs out there trying to do the right things, but let's face it, it's a big business too. And,
Absolutely.
I think some of the, having played at the level I was fortunate enough to play out and seeing a lot of aspects of the game over the years, I think it's borderline criminal what some of these kids are being told, to be totally candid with you. I think you're starting to see a trend of a lot of really high-level high school players, 15 to 16 years old, not playing high school. And to me, I'm happen to be friends with a lot of collegiate coaches, and to me, I think it's a shame because the high school game, the pageant associated. There's something special about playing for your school, representing your school. That environment, like you guys saw in the Final Four in the state championship game, that just can't be duplicated at a club level. It just can't. And the experiences these kids take from that, they'll remember the rest of their lives. I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But anyways, not to get all my soapbox about that, but I'm pretty passionate about it and become even more so in the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, and it's so weird to me. Like, we and by we I'm just generalizing all of us, every coach, every recruiter in one pool. We talk about how the ultimate goal is to play for a school in college, but then leading up to that, we want to discredit any school ball almost. And so I agree with you 100% in that.
Well, all our guys, one of the things, and again, a lot of friends in the coaching and college coaching community too, both on the men's and women's side. One of the things I preach to them all the time, and some of them see this the same way, where they don't recruit a lot to the high school level, but it's guys, one of the things I would want to see as a coach would be how some of these really talented kids play and interact with kids who are not as talented as they are. How do they lift them up? How do they make them better? I'm looking for all those intangible things that, some of the kids aren't as talented and the play is different and some of that, I get that. But to me, if I'm recruiting a kid, I want to see how they interact with kids who are not as talented as them, how they're lifting them up and making them better players, because I think that translates.
Yeah, well, we could spend our whole hour talking about this side of the conversation, and maybe we will one day soon. But Coach, let's talk about your Bethel Banshees. You guys, even prior to you getting there, they had some success recently on the girls' soccer side of things. When you show up, when you get in, let's just talk specifically this preseason. So we're July 15th. You show up, you're running your tryout or whatever that looks like, and are you in the back of your mind thinking, dang, I'm going to win a state title?
I think it actually said a little bit sooner than that. Actually, we went to Center College Team Camp in June, guys, and we were there, and it's just a great camp. A lot of teams are there. It's right before dead period, and it's really informational for a coach because we play a lot of games, and there's a lot of different activities throughout the week, team bonding and whatnot. But we played. I can't remember which game it was now, but we were playing really, really well early on. And I remember there was a moment or two in the game, and I looked at my sister and I said, I think we have a chance to win the state championship. And she kind of draws back on that now, and we laugh about it. There were just some things that I saw that made me really, really excited about what we had. And so I really did think we had a chance, but again, to go out and execute and beat some really good teams, and I knew we'd be in the pool. How about that? I knew we'd be in the pool. I thought we'd be in the top 8 to 10 teams that had a chance to do it. But when it actually happens, and that's a whole other thing altogether. A lot has to go right, as you guys both know.
Yeah, I think one of the things you brought up here is keeping your players focused. And as prior coaches ourselves, when you're playing a school where the history is they aren't up to your team's level, have you had issues like you're in warm-ups for the game and there's kids goofing off or they're not taking the warm-up seriously? Have you dealt with that? And what's your approach on getting them back on track, saying one game puts you behind, so let's get back on track and get ready for this game regardless of the talent we're going up against?
I think it helps, guys, when you have a gut-wrenching loss like we were coming off of last year. Which we did. We lost to E-Town in the regional in 2022, and really, really heartbreaking loss. But to answer your question, yes, I think all coaches see that. We still did this year. But one of the things we talked about all year was, trusting the process, certainly, and staying game to game, making sure we're getting better game to game. And I think we held each other accountable in those moments. So, they're high school kids. Certainly they're not going to be focused all the time. We've had warm-ups, which I think we're going to play really, really well. And we don't necessarily. And then we have one-on sessions where I think we're not focused and we're not there. And we come out and we're pinging around and play really, really well. So I don't have yet to figure that part out in 2 years. But, yes, we just try to get them back on track as quick as we can.
I mean, that's the $1 million idea, right? As coaches, figure out the perfect warm-up, and then we're all millionaires, and we don't have to worry about this anymore, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Somebody tell me that magic cheat code, please.
Coach, to start your season, you mentioned, you look at your assistant and say, hey, I think we got a shot here. And then you start your season, and maybe not like a rough start isn't what isn't the right terminology because you play some high quality teams, but you do start the season at 3-2. You lose, as you mentioned, you drop one to E-Town early on, and then you drop one to Lexington Catholic as well. Any early panic that sets in there that, like, even if it's like internal, like, oh, maybe we don't have the team I thought we had, or is it just like, we're fine, early test, we just got to refocus and get going?
I think for me, guys, I've taken, in my first 2 years doing high school thing, of really just taking the regular season as a preseason and looking at it as totally informational and building to October, which in my mind, I'd like to slow build all the way through and playing our best soccer going into October. And truthfully, I wasn't too concerned personally. We may have had some parents or maybe some, a few
No,
parents a little bit more concerned than I was. But we played pretty well in segments of those games. Against Cap, I didn't think we played really well. And we found an equalizer, I think, with 12 minutes left, and ended up losing the last 8 or 9 minutes of the game 2-1. And I didn't think we played particularly clean. The E-Town game, I'd say we had the one play, probably 60-70% possession, not shot them on goal. And they scored on a set piece and kind of a play in the back that we made a mistake. But overall, I said pulled from that game and we watched film, and we kind of went back and I said that the girls were like, okay, we actually played pretty well in this game. We just didn't get the result. So really, yes, on the result side of things, maybe we're 3-2 early. I didn't even know that actually. I knew we took some losses, but we just took a game to game to game, and I was focused on getting better and working things out tactically, and so I wasn't too concerned early on with early losses.
Yeah, so I think you talked about watching film and your kids are getting involved into it. Was there a game, whether it be a win or a loss, looking back, where you said that was the turning point? That's when the team got focused. That's when our tactics were right on. Our game flow was spot on. Was there a game where you saw, yeah, we got it?
Yes, 100%. And like to your point, guys, we had to have girls accepting roles. That's a big thing, in the championship team, if you're going to get to that level of maybe accepting a role that they're not comfortable with, and that's not necessarily stats driven. So, those kind of things you have to overcome and deal with and have those conversations, and we got total buy-in. But the game, to answer your question, was Assumption in the United Challenge Cup. 100%.
Okay.
We got down 2-0 in that game early on, and came back and tied it 2-2, and actually really outplayed them in the second half for big stretches, and against a really, really good Assumption team with A.G. Gibson, who I love. She's one of my favorite players in the state, and so we outplayed them and had a chance to go up 3-2 actually, and then they found a way to on a corner that they scored the last minute of the game. We lost 3-2, and going back to my assistant Kobe Bailey, on the bus ride home, I don't think I've ever been more enthusiastic on this, because I knew what just had happened, and I thought it would be the turning point. And it seems kind of silly to say because we actually came back. We lost on Saturday against Sacred Heart, but we don't have a lot of depth. We don't have 17, 18 kids we can run out there. We were playing 3 really quality teams over a 4 or 5 day stretch, and we would have gassed. I think we would have lost to anybody on that day against Sacred Heart. But yes, it was that Assumption game where I knew that, okay, we're putting long stretches together. You got to play a team like that for a long stretch. I knew we were very, very close, and ultimately, obviously, shortly after the Sacred Heart game, I don't think we lost again. So,
yeah, and even you mentioned that the Lady Knights Challenge Cup, where even going into that, you had won 7 of your last 8. The only draw being against I'm calling them Page High School. It just says Page out at A.C.E. So you mentioned you're playing great soccer. We're going to circle back to that Challenge Cup a little bit later, but you mentioned you kind of go on the roll. You get hot. You're beating teams. Really, for lack of a better term, you're kind of rolling some teams. You roll into districts where Thomas Nelson in Nelson County and Bardstown, and you haven't met a ton of resistance. I did not Coach, I'm from Barstown. I went to Barstown High.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
I've kept up with you all. You know, when Dad took over at Bethlehem as principal for several years, you know, kind of became quote unquote Bethlehem fans, Bethlehem supporters, especially being on the soccer side of things and knowing the team you all had. But I've got a lot of respect to Martin Bodkin and the things that he's doing at Bardstown as well. And again, I didn't see the game, but based on the scoreline, 2-1, it looks like the district finals, you got everything you wanted.
Absolutely, and you know, Martin and I are really good friends, and I credit Martin to a lot of the success in this area for from the club scene and coaching a lot of these girls, and I think he's there's a huge amount of credit he deserves for growing the women's game, the girls' game, especially down in this area. But yeah, that game certainly last year, guys, we would get down in games, and composure was um, one of our values this year. And I didn't think we had it at times last year where we wouldn't, we have a little adverse moments or we'd get down and we wouldn't be able to come back or find our way home. And, this year it kind of flipped on its head, I think for a variety of reasons. But, in that game in particular, they go up 1-0 actually. And a little bit of a shell shocked. And I think maybe last year, maybe we struggled to come back from that. But this year we were calm, composed, and stuck to the game plan and found a couple of goals, and certainly there was some resistance. Of Martin's teams always play really, really high, especially in October, late in the year. And Tate Blanco is obviously a really good player in the back, and so we had a lot to deal with. And but that was a really nice win to kind of get the kick started, no question about it. Especially having to overcome some diversity in that game.
And then, Coach, of course, you roll into regions where you get the opportunity to not only avenge an early season loss to E-Town, but you also get a chance, as you mentioned, to avenge that heartbreaker from a year ago in the region as well against E-Town.
Yeah, we did have a goal 19 seconds into the game, guys. So not exactly laughable. But again, kind of going back to what I just touched on, it's last year I think we're in deep trouble in that situation. And this year, just the experience, composure, we come back and get two more in the first half. And then we switch some tactics a little bit in the second half, and again hold on to win 2-1, and just a huge lift for us. And I think that was a deep breath for the girls of avenging that loss from last year. As I said earlier, that was a heartbreaking loss for us. And at that point when we got that win, I thought I really thought we could do something special at this point. Just the mental hurdle of overcoming that one from last year.
Yeah, and we have both our high school experiences both at Madison Central here in Richmond, and so I kind of look at Region 11 and Region 5 as the same way. Like if you win that region, you kind of feel like you got a shot going into the whole thing. So when you're playing the likes of E-Town, and I know in the past Central Hardin has had some good teams. Of course, I think up until this year, you and Bardstown had played not only in the district finals but in the region finals the past couple of years. So it is getting out of that region down there in Region 5 is a massive achievement. And so I can only imagine how you're feeling going into the state tournament at that point.
It was even probably, I had never even experienced that feeling, to be honest with you guys. The girls were just, I kind of rode their energy.
Yeah.
And the energy picked up, and they were just ready at that point. And just the attitudes and the positivity. It's like whatever it takes to win it. And that was a total team effort, and all the cliches you could throw out there it was. And
Yeah.
I knew at that point, and the girls were playing with a lot of confidence. And obviously we propelled and went forward from that point.
Yeah, I know you mentioned a lot about your players there. And for us, the coaching can be on point. You have great assistants. But when you get to the postseason, you got to rely on your senior leadership or some type of leadership from players on your team. Was there anything that either your captains did or some players on the team did during postseason where you kind of sat back and said, they've got it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like one moment. You didn't try open expectations this year, guys. I told them all year they could win a state championship. And, some coaches might just say this and that and, shy away from it a little bit, but we embraced it. And I think we kind of meet the expectations and they ran with it. And, when you have six seniors, certainly that helps who have been kind of through it and suffered some tough losses. I think that develops a little bit of an edge about them too. They didn't want to go out the way that they went last year and have that tough loss. But you just see it in the players, and I can't even tell you. Certainly Carl Thurman and Gracie Zetterman were our captains. But I think about moving forward. We've got both Miles girls, Ashley Miles and Tessa Miles. They play with such an edge, and it's almost a refuse to lose attitude. And so you can draw from that. So you can, Carly's leadership is more quiet, but it's done in her play and lead by example. And Gracie's our junior captain, and she's just exudes positivity. And Kenzie Clayton, Chloe Young. So everybody, we kind of pulled from everybody. I don't know if there was one moment, but I saw it. I saw it in training when we started to everybody started to accept roles. Um, and there's probably that one moment in training where it kind of clicked and where there was that buy-in from everything about team and whether it was a tactic, was a position shift, whether it was, a multitude of things. And I remember that one particular training session leading into postseason where I thought, okay, these girls, we're getting ready. They're getting ready to take us places. And, from there it clicked and they just played with such positivity, enthusiasm, and composure, and picked each other up, and that's what it was all about. So,
And then, Coach, rolling into the state tournament, you gotta play who they put in front of you, and you guys handled business really. I mean, I know for you it wasn't easy, but when you look at the scoreboard and you look at the stat chart, you all handled the first game or two relatively easy. Bullet East in the round one, is that correct? And then Boyle County in the second round.
that
This is
was East and then Henderson County. Yeah, Bolt was their second game.
I was missing somebody. And then Boyle in the final four.
Yep. Yep. And then, the bullet that began, guys, and that's a game you come off the emotional end of beating E-Town. So as a coach, you always worry about that. I know on paper we're supposed to win that game, but, you never know in the sport, as you guys both know. And, I told the girls afterwards, I was a professional at the performance. They went out there, handled business, and looked really good at times doing it. And again, I kind of knew. I was like, okay, we're locked in. They didn't overlook anybody. We'll make sure. At that point, we had a thing throughout the course of the year in the district tournament where we check boxes. We check boxes as a district game just to make sure we stay in the moment, game to game. We check boxes for regional. We check boxes for Sweet 16. Tried to get them to keep game to game, moment to moment, and that game they went out and played, just executed really, really well, and did some high level things. Honestly, I was really impressed by that performance coming off a big emotional win. It always worries it's a flat spot, but it was not in that game. So and then Henderson.
Now that
Go
you
ahead, I'm
mentioned
sorry.
it, they remember seeing a tweet that Duffin put out of your all's check boxes on your whiteboard. Um,
Yeah,
just a real simple, like not thinking outside the box, just a real simple way to keep players and teams and even coaches focused on the task at hand instead of looking ahead to a Sacred Heart in the finals.
yeah, exactly. And we rallied behind it. I mean, it would every game we check a box, I'd bring somebody else up and they'd check it, and they'd go crazy. We brought in some youth players to do it every once in a while. It became a thing throughout the post. It became a thing throughout the postseason. Actually, we're doing our state championship shirts, and some of the girls were like, "We got to get check boxes in the back of our shirts." And
Oh, that's awesome.
it became a thing. And again, this is not reinventing anything, but it was very simplistic, but it was something that just that kept them in the moment, and we drew from that, certainly.
Coach, you get to the state final. I was lucky enough to drive over and see it. I was texting Dunham. I was like, this is the best soccer I've seen in a long time at this level. Let's just kind of real quickly break down the game a little bit. You lost earlier in the season. We mentioned, you already mentioned you lost earlier in the season to this Sacred Heart team. Um, what are your preparations like heading into that game? Are you kind of thinking, hey, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing? Or are you looking back at the film of that game and going, okay, here's where we're going to adjust?
You guys are laugh at this because I watch a ton of film, a ton. Probably too much, my wife would tell me. But they I didn't even watch their game film, guys, the last time they played them. I threw that film out because I knew we were missing a player that game who was really important to us, Chloe Young, one of their senior center backs. I knew we were going to play a little bit different style this time, and I knew we were totally gassed and had no legs. So I didn't even want it. And they didn't have one playing in that game, which is their starter player. So I didn't even draw from that. And I watched the Notre Dame game, and I watched about three of their games leading up. Um, and we definitely they killed us through the middle last year. They had nice they run players through the middle a lot, and we played. I put two of our more athletic girls, Ashley Miles and Tessa Miles, at holding mids and pulled a double six, and we hadn't really done that all year. We pinched the wings in a little bit, and in possession and made them attack from wide spaces, and I think that caused them a little bit of confusion in the first half, and so yeah, we switched some things up tactically, definitely. But I didn't even watch the game film that we previously played. I kind of just watched their last few games, and then from the Notre Dame game when they played the night before. Obviously, they looked really good. I mean, but listen, I mean, they went through. I mean, they beat Assumption, South Oregon, a good Bowling Green team on the road. Then they beat Notre Dame, and I mean that is just a crazy path. So leading up to that game, I like the psychological edge, to be honest with you, that they had beat us 4-1, and they probably thought in their mind they didn't have one to beat us 4-1. Um, and as long as I did remain confident and steadfast that we could still get the job done, and I knew I remember when I was talking to my sister, I said, I'm going to walk in the locker room and find out Paul Sacred Heart. I want to see where their mindset is. Because then it was very, very positive. And because we were playing well, they took that Chloe Young wasn't playing in that game. They knew we were going to switch some things up and we would be prepared. And they were playing at a high level with super confidence, like we talked about earlier. So once I could tell their mindset was where it needed to be, I was pretty confident that we would at least compete and have a chance.
Yeah, and then let's dive into that first half a little bit, as you mentioned. If I recall correctly, and Coach, please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong on these. I don't have it right in front of me anymore. But the first goal is a great diagonal run by Carly Thurman that she received. I mean, it is, and I'm going to tell on Dad a little bit here, but Dad doesn't know soccer quite as much, and he and I said we're sitting in the top ring at Lafayette, and I saw the play develop, and I saw Carly hit that diagonal, and I hit down. I was like, if they get her the ball, this is a goal. And I forget who made the pass, but it was a beautiful pass, and she puts it in the back of the net, and you're up 1-0.
Yeah, so I can. Yeah, it was just it was a great build up. We got a ball again. We kind of sat Tessa Miles a little bit deeper than we normally do in that game, and I wanted to get forward, and she came forward, played a nice little 1-2 combination with Holly Hurst, I believe. And then I talked to Tessa all year about just driving forward and making the defender commit, and she drove out of the back, and I talked to Carly before. We had a light kick around that day, and I said, Carly, I just need you to be active constantly. Make them defend you at all times, make those diagonal runs. And Tessa drove right at her. Carly, like you said, just a beautifully timed run.
Yeah.
The weight of the ball was perfect. Her first touch was perfect, and just a clinical finish. And we go up 1-0, and obviously there's a lot of excitement after that.
Yeah, and then you just mentioned telling Carly to be active and be focused and make them defend you. That's pretty much what she did on the second goal. She kind of just did that on her own. She jumped probably a poorly dropped ball by not Lafayette. It was at Lafayette, but poorly dropped ball by Sacred Heart. But she doesn't give up on it, and she ends up just getting a free little tap in it.
I was talking to a buddy of mine who watched the game on the stream and I played with a long time ago, and that was just such an instinctual play, guys. I mean, it was, you see it on film and you watch it back, and the girl's back there, and she's not thinking anything of it. You see Carly read it. And you see, she does one of these twice, and Carly just reads that back and just splits the gut. And that's just an athletic play, and athleticism kicked in there, and the girl drops it back, and Carly's, 5 yards and just explodes, for about a 5-7 yard stretch. And I don't think the keeper even knew at that point. Carly was just there. She gets a touch and it goes in the back of the net. Just a huge goal, obviously, to put up 2-0 and a great individual play by Carly.
Yeah, and so, Coach, here you are. You're up 2-0 at halftime of the state championship game. What in the world is that halftime speech like?
I knew I had to refocus a narrative and ran out of excitement. And, but again, they're an experienced group. I knew we were right home because they were going to make some adjustments to counter, if you will. And I knew they'd start to attack on the outside a little bit more because we really wanted to shut down the middle. That's where we were exploited last time we played them. And, at that point, you're thinking, what should we do tactically? Should we come out of this formation? Should we change some personnel groups or a player or two? And, so it was just refocus. And I think for the most part, to be honest, guys, I know what happened, but I felt like we were. They're just a really good team, and they made a couple of really good plays in the second half. So it was certainly, I didn't feel like the girls thought they had to go home. They knew we were going home. They knew we had to play 80 minutes. But at the end of the day, as I'm sure we'll get into here, the Sacred Heart came out, made some adjustments on their end, and put a few in the back of the net. So,
yeah, they get one back, not like early. I think it was like the 28th, somewhere around in there, 29 minutes left. They get one back, make it 2-1, and then it kind of goes stagnant. You all have your chances, they have their chances, but it's two really good teams playing soccer at this point, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And then, Coach, with 8 minutes left, kind of all hell breaks loose. And
that's what they didn't describe it. Yes. Yeah. And they get it.
You get 4 goals in the final 8 minutes in the state championship game. I mean, just like watching the end of a college basketball game where every trip down the floor somebody's hitting a big shot. And you don't get that a lot in soccer. So as a fan in that moment, it was a ton of fun to watch. I'm sure as a coach, it was super stressful and not fun to watch, but it was so much fun as a fan to watch.
There were moments in there that were really fun to watch. I brought that a few times too. But it was, it was when they got up 3-2, and I'm thinking, this is just, how do we come back from this? We've come back so many times this year, and again, I mentioned composure was one of our big values all year, and having composure. But that's the ultimate test, the ultimate gut shot, right? I mean, you have a 2-0 lead, the dreaded 2-0 soccer lead. They come back against, they tie it 2-2, and then they go up and, Tessa kind of gets clipped over there, I think, and then, I keep Gracie gets shielded. They go up 3-2, and I think it was 5 minutes to go, and or 6 minutes, and I'm thinking, how do we come back from this? And at that point, I told After Miles, I said, I literally just told her go. She knew what that meant, and she ran up and played, we basically had 2 attacking mids at that point. We needed one, and we pushed forward, and Akron is just the kind of kid, guys, who she plays with such an edge. You got to rein her in sometimes, but she's the player that everybody wants to coach, and she just has that refuse to lose attitude. And she just went and Presley Sparks redirected the ball, and Akron just went and made a play, and that goes in to find it 3-3, and I'm just thinking, what in the world is going on at that point? And then a younger sister about a minute and a half later. And
the story that no one knows is that your game tying winning state championship goals are by older sister and little sister.
Yes, and just what a moment for them. I mean, I was talking to a dad last night at a middle school basketball game, and I just said, you guys are going to be talking around the Thanksgiving table 20 years from now about that moment.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just the moment that lasts a lifetime. And so Tessa comes back at 3-3, and just the thing about that goal, guys, it's so impressive with Tessa's to win it. Obviously, the moment and being as big as it gets, on the high school level, but her prep touch was amazing to me, and I think that almost surprised the goalie when that ball's cleared. It's a half clearance, but it wasn't like it was a slow rolling clearance. It was struck decently, and the presence of mind to touch that into space where she did, and then hit it on touch two, that's next level stuff, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it surprised the girl because she's a really good keeper, and to just knuckle on like that, and before she knew it, I think it was on her. But what a player! What just an incredible talent in Tessa.
The strike by Tessa in that moment. I mean, you described it perfectly. The first touch that she made into that space. I mean, she hits this ball on. We're playing on a football field. I mean, she hits it from about the 25-yard line on the football
Yeah.
field. So that ball travels 35 yards in the air, and then just the word you used was knuckled, and that's the right word. And it just, I mean, it was a beautiful strike that as a keeper, you would in that moment, you're like, don't tell me that I want to hear that. But as a keeper, you kind of just have to shake their hand and say, what a shot. I mean,
I think so, guys. I mean, it's just, yeah. I don't even think she knew what happened. It was on her so quickly, and I think she tried to punch it over. And yeah, just a brilliant play by Tessa, and doing that moment, it has to be one of the greatest, I mean, soccer games in state history, certainly for a state championship ending, maybe in any sport. It's got to be up there. I talked to Chad Collins, and he had mentioned that, and I've talked to a few other people who have seen a lot of sports in high school around the state for years, and they've all mentioned that to me as well. And just an incredible ending for us and for the girls, and couldn't be prouder of them.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Bethlehem took their first state championship for the school, apparently. So what's been the aftermath for you guys? What did the city do anything for you guys? Did the school welcome you in some way? What was some of the celebratory things that you guys got?
Yeah. No, it's been, honestly, you don't really think about that until it happens, and just the outlet, and just the support, the community support has been incredible. I can't even. My phone finally stopped ringing, I think yesterday or the day before. The city's got involved. The girls had a chance to go in the courthouse yesterday, and they did a special presentation for us. And we're talking about a lot of other things. We're going to have signs made around the county border that'll say 2023 Bethlehem Banshees soccer, home of the Bethlehem Banshees State Soccer Champions, and there's a lot more things. I think there's a parade in the works, a lot of things, and the girls are most interested in getting their rings ordered, guys. That's the important type at this point. But the Kentucky Standard, our local paper here in town, John Clay was great all year, and he covered us, and they had it was a 10-page spread about our run in the paper, the entire sports section, 10 pages. Businesses took ads congratulating us, and in the paper, and it's just been incredible, the support we received from administration, alumni, and the Louisville community too. I know a lot of people in Louisville soccer community, Kentucky soccer community, and I can't even tell you how many coaches have reached out, and it's been surreal. I don't think the girls. I told them the other day. I think they're starting to realize that they've done. The first at-large state title in Bethlehem school history, and I think 20, 30 years from now, they're really going to look back and go, "Wow, we did that. We were a part of that."
Absolutely. Coach, so what are we doing now? Are we still enjoying it, or are we back to the drawing board and getting a title? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my athletic director, he was so funny the next day. He's like, listen, I know, he had a saying that I actually had before I came. It's what's next. And he he called me, like, look, I know you're going to be thinking what's next. He's like, I want you to take a few days at least to enjoy this. I'm proud to. My mind's already been with center camp guys next year to figure out, that challenge, because we lose a lot of talented players, certainly. We've got some talented ones in the pipeline, and some other girls who I think are going to contribute. But I'm really excited. It's definitely starting to do it day by day towards next year, and putting that puzzle together, certainly.
And a lot of them for you, Coach, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of them are getting ready, or I guess at this point they have already joined a top 10 state basketball team too as well. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, they have. And yeah, so Carly Feldman, Kenzie Clayton, Alpha Miles, Tessa Miles, Mario Alzano, Gracie, yeah, Gracie Osborne, I'm probably forgetting somebody. 7 or 8 at least are joining them, and they're going to be really, really good.
Yeah,
Christy and Macy came there. So.
they have state championship visions as well. So, we'll be able to get it done. Coach, before we let you go, anything that you just want to add or give a shout out to anybody in particular, but anything that we might have missed tonight or anything you want to?
No, I think you guys covered it. I think for us guys, it was just a special year, a special group of girls, girls that believed from the start of the year, and it wasn't always easy. There were highs and lows, and things we had to overcome, and but at the end of the day, we trusted the process, and the school of 150 girls won a state championship, and I can't thank you enough for having me on, and I love talking about it, and probably won't stop talking about it ever at this point. But especially you.
As you should, and rightfully so. You've given a lot of credit to your girls tonight and things like that, but I do want to just give you a quick shout out. I mean, the two words that you mentioned to me tonight, or that you mentioned several times tonight, are composure and roles. And it's very clear that you have instilled those two mindsets and those two traits into your girls. You mentioned not only having to come from behind multiple times, but then, blowing, not the right word because they end up coming from behind and getting it done, but blowing that 2-0 lead in the state finals. Most teams end up losing that game 4, 5, 6-2 in that moment. It just really gets out of hand. So kudos to you. Congratulations to you for just really, truly instilling that message of composure and staying the course and, knowing our roles and knowing what you believe in. And roles was the other word that you mentioned that I thought is so important. Hey, we can't be bigger than the team. We can't have 1 or 2 players be bigger than what we're trying to build here. And it sounds like, and it doesn't sound like, I know I saw it. You did a great job getting that done. So congratulations to you, Coach.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. Ultimately, it's they have to go out and execute it and man on the field, as you guys both know. But I appreciate that.
Coach, anything to add? Any final thoughts?
I think we're good. It's been a great discussion here, but congratulations again, and good luck again next year. We can't wait to see it out because we know we are very familiar with Sacred Heart, and having somebody take them out in the state final, it's a big deal. So big kudos to your girls and to you. So we're looking forward to how it goes down next year as well.
And I think between the two of us, we went to region, 14 times, and we ran into Catholic about 12 of those 14 times. So we appreciate you making sure they didn't get it done either.
Yeah, well, somebody else had to say that before, but I appreciate that, guys.
Thank you so much. Again, we appreciate you tuning in. This has been the A.C.E Football Academy. Our guest today has been Coach Scott Deopere from Bethlehem High School down in Bardstown, Kentucky. State champion Coach Deopere. So congratulations to his Banshees. I'm Coach Hamilton. This is Coach Dunham. We are the A.C.E Football Academy. Thank you so much.